Hi, I'm Gur Milstein. I'm here at SuperBooth 2025 with Tiptop Audio, and we are making a video for proaudio.tv. And we would like to show you our new technology. What it is basically the world's first polyphonic modular synthesizer. And I want to walk you through to how it works, what it does, and what's the benefit of using it. So if we look at this system, it comprises of plenty of modules that we have released over the past 3 to 4 years. When I say release, we haven't started selling them. We just started selling them in the last few months. But release means that we have actually made them. We have early adopters who were approaching and wanted to give it a try, and we were working with them as part of a beta testing group. And now we are fully confident with the technology, and we are moving forward full speed, making more and more modules and devices that will interact with it. The main idea behind making a modular polyphonically is really that goes to the core of modular. And what is modular is the ability to have different pieces arranged in different ways and connected in different ways. And if you look on a classic polyphonic synthesizer, it's usually, a big thing with a keyboard, and you have oscillators and filters and VCAs, and they are internally connected. You probably have some means of modulation. You have presets, and what you have is in there in the box. And when you finish working with that one, you're really going to buy another polysynth and another polysynth. And it's not only expensive, it's also taking a lot of space, and obviously it's it's in quite an old-fashioned way once you understand that there's an alternative, a professional alternative to going that route. In a polyphonic synthesizer, everything is locked inside, right? So let's say you have a vintage PPG synthesizer, wonderful sounding, one of the best sounding synthesizer ever. But you want to use that oscillator of the PPG with an Oberheim filter, which is one of the best filters ever too. With modular you can do that, and that's the core of modular. Another thing you can do with modular is you can patch things in an unorthodox way. So when you have a polyphonic synthesizer, the links between the devices inside, the modules, are pre-wired for you. Then you can do some modulation, there's some matrices, there's polysynths that are more advanced and less advanced in regard to that. And usually they do a lot and they provide a lot of sound, but when you have it under full control on your hands, without preset, without menus, and you have actual cables where you can plug things, it's not just the ease of use, it's also the ability to go far and beyond what manufacturer A or B has set for you in a closed box. So as a professional device that we've been developing over 12 years, there's a lot of technology that we had to develop to make it happen. And I will go step by step explaining that technology. The first thing is that you have to have oscillators in tune in order to play polyphonically. So if we're using a digital oscillator, for example, like Vortex 6, which is similar to the PPG, original PPG oscillator with 8-bit converters, it's digital, and digital is already in tune, everything is great, no problem. But when you're dealing with analog oscillator, for example the Triax H, which has 16 analog oscillator, which will drift with temperature, which will have its own character for each of the oscillator, you need to have more control. And what we have is we have inside the module, we have a compensation circuit where it reads the frequency of each of the oscillators and generate the voltage specifically for that in order for that oscillator to be in tune. And it does this for all 16 oscillators and builds internally like a table that define the note, actually the voltage to note ratio that the module need to generate for the oscillators in all of them to be in tune. And it's actually even smarter than that, because we realize, because it's going to be modular, maybe I'm going to take this oscillator now and move it to another case, or maybe I'm going to change some other modules around it. That's going to change the environment for the module, and because it's analog, the temperature will change, the power supply might go a little up or might down, and that again might affect the frequency of the oscillator. The oscillator has a built-in memory that knows to compensate for all those changes. He learns your case, he learns the environment it's in, and every time you make changes, all that is this need to be done is hold the button down and it does complete auto-tuning for all the system, and you're all set. So that covers the basics of the polyphonic oscillators. Now, when we developed the system, we realized that most synthesizers speak over MIDI, and MIDI works great for many years, but it is dated. That's, to be honest, it's very old, and for modular use, it's also not very well implemented. It uses a different cable than the standard cable that we use in a modular system. It's not very patchable. You have to assign channels. There's all kind of stuff that kind of breaks the usual workflow of modular that we're so used to using CV and gates, where you just patch and plug, hot swap things, and it just works. In addition to that, the MIDI that is implemented in modular currently is very slow. It's about 33.1 kilohertz, which is extremely slow for today possibilities. And to do that, to improve that, we said we are building really the Ferrari of synthesizer, at least the way we see it. We decided it's time to also make a protocol that will communicate with this, that is going to be built, tailored specifically for modular, and it's going to be a big road with a lot of lanes that is ready to move for the future. And we called it ART. It's a signal, and it's very much like MIDI in terms of it's sending note off, note on, pitch bands, a lot of messages. But the difference is that it's way faster. It runs at 1.25 megahertz. It's using regular cables. You can stack cables. You can run hot swap patches to everywhere. It solves really a lot of problems that otherwise will be quite limiting, and is opening up for a lot of future things to come, again, due to the speed and due to the ease of use. So ART is really the signal, and in order for us to communicate with MIDI devices, because there's obviously a lot of MIDI devices out there that we want to play this thing through, we have a module called Octopus, and Octopus generally takes MIDI in and outputs ART out. If you're using internal CV sequencer, you go, for example, this module, which is a quantizer, an ART quantizer. It takes CV in and outputs ART. So it's actually very simple. The only difference is that usually we would have a MIDI to CV. Here we have a MIDI to ART. And it works seamlessly with MIDI, and it has no problem. It's never going to choke from over data because it's just way faster than the sender itself. Then the next thing that we had to develop is a means to transfer polyphony between the modules themselves. And that was probably the hardest part of it all, because you would need a multi-channel conductor to do that. And usual cable that we use in Eurorack are one signal at a time. They are all monophonic. So what we did is, once the European Commission have gone for USB as the standard, USB-C as the standard connector for pretty much everything electronics now, we feel confident that we can go with that type of connector. The benefit that it provides is being very small, and use it to our purpose. And our purpose is audio, is modular. And what we did is we developed cables. They look like USB-C cables, but they are not USB-C cables. What they are is they are analog cables that runs 8 analog signals through from point to point. So when I'm going to patch my oscillator, for example, this is the Vortex 6 again. This is the PPG oscillator, which has 6 voices. I have the audio out, go through these cables. We call them polytip cables. And the polytip cable is going to go to Octopass. Octopass is a low-pass filter. And this cable basically now transfers 8 audio signals to the filter. And I go from the filter to, let's say, the VCA with another polytip. cable. I'm going from the audio out of the filter into the VCA. And on the VCA at the end I have a mixer, and then I have two regular jacks coming out. Here's my audio. So the patching here is all done with the polytip cables. Now the polytip cables themselves are flexible. We are using very high-end type of cable and very high-end type of connector because we are going to patch a lot, because that's the fun of using modular. And this is where it's also getting interesting, because we'll start moving things around, connecting signals again in strange, in different ways. And the byproduct of this entire thing is the first thing is, okay, now we have a great polyphonic synthesizer here. And we didn't need to buy a whole case and a new keyboard and another device. We're using maybe the same Eurorack case we already have from other modules. The second thing is that we are able to start patch it in very interesting ways. And probably the third one is that once we are start modulating each voice separately, we are breaking the timbrality of the synthesizer. That means that each voice becomes like an independent mono voice. And all of a sudden we have like 6 or 8, for example, in the case of the triacs, 8 signals that are, if we modulate them heavily and independently, become their own sound. Yet they're all interact together, because when you play a chord, there's some harmonic relationship between those sounds. So it's all this power, all these oscillators are now becoming like a stream of audio, making amazing big drones or just really fat sounds, you know, percussive sounds. It's endless, and the difference between that and the standard Eurorack that we've been doing for years is that with the standard Eurorack we were working monophonically. We would go from module to module to module, maybe we would add another layer and another layer. The tuning would be quite an issue once you start getting to 4 or 5 voices. And here you don't have that. It's all working together, and the sound is just really amazing. If you have 2 of those oscillators and you got the filters and you got everything patched and you just play from the same source, then you got those 2 massive amount of oscillator playing the same notes, for example, and you're layering synth voices, polyphonic synth voices, one on each other. It's a really professional kind of instrument. It goes beyond the traditional Eurorack. You know, a lot of people call it blips and bloops. I quite disagree, though I know a lot of people, that's what they do with it. But this is something that is made for people who are looking to make sound and music, you know, for film, for everything really. I mean, it's music at the end of the day, it's a musical instrument, but want to rely on something that is made very professionally. Another thing that we can do with those things, because we don't need to produce one big synthesizer at a time, we're able to put the best of the best inside each of those modules, because we know that the cost is per module and not per the entire complete synth. So we don't need to cut corners. So for example, this module over here is called the multipass filter. It's the filter, a recreation of the OBX, the exact same circuit of the OBX with all its glory and all its beautiful sound. And that's just wonderful, because we are not restricted to cost of like, oh, we need to put, you know, that part of a little bit less quality compared to this part. We can just go all in on this. And the result is that you are getting here circuits that, assuming we want to recreate vintage synths from the 80s, for example, we are able to do it fully without any compromise in the line. And that's the system in general. There's a lot of modules. I will just go through them really quick so we can get familiar with them, and we'll also say which ones are currently available and which one will coming out soon. So again, we have Vortex 6, the PPG style oscillator. We got Octopath, which is a 24 dB filter, which was similar to the one used in the PPG synthesizer. We got Octastages, which is an 8 analog envelopes. Nobody makes analog envelopes these days. You know, all the polysynths you buy these days, the new ones, are all with digital envelopes. This is using the original analog envelopes of the OBs from the 80s. Then we got Octogain, which is a polyphonic VCA. We got Trax 8, which is an 8-voice, 16 oscillator analog polyphonic oscillator. It's a beast, massive sound. We got the multipass that I just mentioned, which is the OBX filter with a lot of extension. There's a lot of patch point on it. You can do a lot of weird thing, and there's a lot of gain levels adjustments on the inputs and outputs, because it turns out that once you are changing the input gain on this filter, you get a really wide variations of sound, and it's pretty interesting all by itself. Then we came with Octo LFO, which is a modulation source, really powerful because it has 8 fully independent LFOs. So each one can modulate a voice separately. It can work in sync. It can sync to a clock. It can be synced to keys that you are playing or notes that are coming in. It can be used as an LFO. It can be used as a sample and hold, track and hold. It can be used as a unique envelope by playing those LFO shapes. There's an SD card here where you can load your own LFO shapes. There's 8 CV inputs, both on jacks and on poly tips, as you can see. So you can use it also with other gear that you have in the studio in the modular. The last thing probably is the first module we released a few years ago. It's the ATX and Vortex. These are basically monophonic versions of these modules. And with them you can also build polyphonic patches if you want, or enjoy the fact that they are very well tuned and speaking through art, and they will always play very well with the rest of the system. So your scale will always be in scale. You won't have deviations. Whatever you are planning is going to happen, and you're not going to run on just hoping that things will work right. So that's in a nutshell. There's a lot to digest, I know. We are very proud of this, and we're looking forward to see you exploring it.